It's a story about two women, one in the present day, with the very recent past, and one in the 20s, 30s, 40s, and beyond.
I loved the way the script flip-flopped between a modern-day story and a period story, and that the two kind of mirrored each other and kept pace with each other.
Definitely M's process in the beginning was very much about, you know, reading, education, learning, absorbing this world.
To create this look of this film, we read tons of books, saw tons of pictures, and of course a lot of blueprints of other films.
There are books that Madonna used when she was writing the script, books of the letters, and they're amazing, they're just fascinating.
It's refreshing to read a script that has such strong, interesting female characters at its centre.
I think it's unquestionable that the film is female strong in the sense that the leads are both female and that the director's female.
Okay, ladies, are you ready? Perfect.
Good.
Check the gate.
What I liked about the script was the way that it was written. It kept the period flashbacks very real, very honest, very immediate.
Seeing an historical figure through the eyes of a modern-day woman, and then on the flip side, being able to relate to a woman in the late 1930s who was about to potentially become a queen.
I thought it was a very fascinating take on a very interesting chapter in the British monarchy's history and that very human quest for true love.
There's always certain things that attract you to a film, you know, the story, the character, the creative team. So for me, the story, you know, about the search for love, about the journey of one's soul, I think is a beautiful tale to tell.
I was always fascinated by the story of the Duke and the Duchess. Every time I'd go out to dinner, I'd bring up their name at a dinner party, and it would be like throwing a Molotov cocktail onto the table. Suddenly, the table would erupt, and everyone would get into an argument about who they were. As I read their story, my feelings toward them kept changing. One minute I was, you know, enthralled and swept up in it, and then the next minute I was kind of irritated with them and thinking of them as superficial. And then the next minute I thought, oh my God, they're human beings like all of us. This guy gave up the throne. What drove him to do that? If it was for a woman and if it was for love, what did this woman have?
Andrea Riseborough has 50 costume changes in this movie. James D'Arcy has 30. Abby Cornish has 40 costume changes. It's just a hungry movie for costumes. We have so many costumes. So every day on set is a fashion moment.
Turn over. Hey, camera.
Yeah. Action.
As you can see, I'm not quite as chic as Andrea is in the film. She had her own style, Elizabeth, and it sort of lived on for generations.
There's a scene in our film where Queen Elizabeth is having a hat fitting. When I read the script, I said, oh my goodness, Stephen Jones has got to play this part.
And he got the money and he got the talk and the fancy walk just to suit New York. It's love, it's love alone. Cause King Edward to you can take me throne, you can take me crown. Believe me, Miss Simpson to renown. He says love, it's love alone. Cause King Edward to lead the throne.
One of the things that I love, that I'm obsessed with, is camera movement. Because my training is originally as a dancer, when I thought about choreographing the Steadicam, you have to rehearse it. It's an animal. It's a creature that lives on the set.
You need to see him shoving her. She doesn't want to go. I want to see her knees.
There's a lot of movement in my film, which wasn't necessarily intentional, although a lot of the movies that I was inspired by had a lot of movement, camera-wise. I also didn't know it at the time, but now when I watch the movie, I say, wow, there's a lot of dancing in my movie. movie, but I also wasn't conscious of that when I was writing the script. So there's actual people dancing, and then in some respects, there's a sort of lyricism and a lot of movement to the camera.
Some people called it the greatest love story of the 20th century.
What are you thinking about?
What it must feel like to be loved that much.
Are all American girls such good dancers?
I wouldn't know, sir. Haven't danced with many.
Happy birthday, Wee. Who's we?
Wallace and Edward.
I have never known one person so utterly possessed by another as he was by her.
He's rather serious about her, Your Majesty.
What do you mean, serious? She's a married woman.
Your family will never stand for it. The Prime Minister won't stand for it.
He'll not give up the throne.
And I will be the most despised woman in the world.
Have a good night, Miss.
Mrs. Winthrop.
I don't understand your obsession with the Duke and the Duchess.
Little girls love fairy tales.
How do you know they lived happily ever after?
I read that you kept a collection of letters. I think it's important to tell the story from her point of view.
London South stands stunned. King Edward VIII prepares to publicly renounce his throne.
I have found it impossible to discharge my duties as king without the support of the woman I love.
The whole world turned against her, but she never backed down. She survived.
When are you going to start living your own life?
Darling, they can't hurt you. Unless you let them.